I'm going to get my limited crew, because they're so busy and so few, to go back to the last year and a half where I have basically broken down exactly what would happen hundreds of times so that I can have those clips on the Sunday show this Sunday, 4 to 6 p.m. And the scores of articles by Kurt Nwo, Paul Watson, and others where we specifically said the West is arming al-Qaeda, changing their name to confuse the public to IS and ISIS, and is going to attack the West, and that's going to be used as a pretext to take American liberties, European liberties, and deploy paramilitary on the streets. And I've also said over and over again that Obama has taken more vacations than anyone I have ever seen. And the media admits that. He breaks the record of even George W. Bush, who would take about 2.5 months of vacation. Obama takes over 4 months of vacation a year. But I said that if he ever comes home from a vacation, that's because he doesn't want to get blamed for what's about to happen. It's a bad image problem. Urgent is the Drudge Report headline. Obama to intercept and to interrupt weekend fundraising trip will return to D.C. He was going to attend a MSNBC wedding and do 3 fundraisers. But he will still attend the MSNBC wedding. While UK raises terror threat to severe, basically their highest level. The FBI has put out a terror alert as well today. Do you know who's not listed on the terror alert? This is out of the Washington Times. FBI National Domestic Threat Assessment omits Islamicist terrorism. So they're saying a domestic attack, meaning here in the U.S., could happen at any moment, but Muslims, radical Muslims, are not listed. You know who is listed, right? You know the drill. We first broke this 7 years ago. No one believed us. It's mainstream news now. Even when it was found in the New York Times a week later, we got no credit. That's fine. Just want people to know we're not making stuff up, okay? No matter how wild it sounds, it's documented. I wish I was wrong. FBI National Domestic Threat Assessment omits Islamicist terrorism. Bill Gertz. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that just special? Can we put 2 and 2 together here? Veterans, returning veterans, gun owners, conservatives, libertarians, Christians, constitutionalists, anybody who doesn't love Mao Zedong, and I'm not even joking. We've got 10 czars praising Mao. I guess he's the politically correct one because he's Asian, so nothing he does could be wrong. Only white people could be bad like Hitler or Stalin. No, he has the world record for killing people. 80+ million is the Chinese number. CIA says 60-something million. Whatever. The point is he killed more people than anybody ever in history. And we have a government run by people that endorse Mao Zedong. We're going to come back and get into it. I'm telling you, they may be getting ready to pull the big false flag. Drudge just had a siren go up on Putin. Danger Zone bringing us in on this live Friday, 29th day of August, 2014 transmission. You don't see that but a few times a year. DrudgeReport.com. Putin, don't mess with Russia. They've got the siren going. And hey, there's no compliment like imitation. We have our siren here going as well. And believe me, I want it red linked when we post this Reuters article with links to our background and research on this. I'm going to add the Ray McGovern video that we re-aired yesterday to that, where he says this could end in nuclear war. Headline, top CIA analyst moving troops into Poland and Ukraine could trigger nuclear war. A very good chance of it. And now Putin has come out saying, don't mess with nuclear Russia, Putin says. Reuters, Vladimir Putin said today, just minutes ago. We're going to post the actual Russian transcript at InfoWars so you get the full thing. On Friday, Russia's armed forces, see why I spent 3 hours on this yesterday? And I had people asking why I was making such a big deal of Ukraine. Because this is a big deal. Russian troops are going into Ukraine right now. And I don't just sit there and agree with CNN. They've been in a proxy battle for 6 months. President Vladimir Putin said on Friday, Russia's armed forces, backed by its nuclear arsenal, were ready to meet any aggression, declaring at a pro-Kremlin youth camp that foreign states should understand it's best not to mess with us. This is absolutely insane, crazy level information. Putin told the assembly on the banks of the lake near Moscow that Russian takeover, in fact, I'll guarantee you this is on RT right now, guys. Go to RT Russia. I guarantee it's their top video. Putin told the assembly on the banks of the lake near Moscow, let's get that on Infowars.com as well, the Russian takeover of Crimea in March was essential to save a largely Russian-speaking population from Ukrainian government violence, and they have been there ethnically cleansing them. He said continued fighting in eastern Ukraine, where pro-Russian separatists launched a uprising in April, was the latest of a reversal and a refusal by Kiev to negotiate. Ukraine and Western governments accuse Russia of sending troops and armor to back the separatists in a conflict that has already killed over 2,000 people. Russia denies the charge. Russia is far from being involved in any large-scale conflicts. Notice that key word, because these are asymmetrical skirmishes. He said at the camp on the banks of the lake, we don't want that and we don't plan it, but naturally we should always be ready to repel any aggression towards Russia. Russia's partners should understand it's best not to mess with us, said Putin, dressed casually in a gray sweater and light blue jeans. Thank God, I think no one is thinking of unleashing a large-scale conflict with Russia. They're moving U.S. troops, mercenaries, you name it, into Poland and Ukraine, with the CIA director setting it all up 3 months ago. This is all public. Thank God you're not planning something because we have nuclear weapons and we're rolling them up to the border. When NATO and again, it's not our government, folks. It's globalist manipulating this. Just like they funded Al-Qaeda in Iraq and Al-Qaeda in Syria as the main force. They renamed it IS or ISIS. Now the political class says, brace for terror attack. We're about to get hit by Al-Qaeda or ISIS. Highest terror level alert in England. Terror level alert in New York City for ISIS. And no one's talking about who gave them the weapons. Just a year ago, we had Rand Paul saying we don't want to be the Air Force for Al-Qaeda, and Senator Ted Cruz and others. And so they had a problem. The CFR openly said, we have a problem. It's coming out that we're working with these people. What do we do? So they have this whole PR thing of, well, we can't control them, and they are good fighters, and Assad is bad, but we'll bomb them later, and we'll take care of the Al-Qaeda problem after they've taken care of Assad for us, blah, blah, blah. That's why we've given them the weapons and trained them. And then our own military came out and said, yeah, we've been forced to give them weapons and train them. And Tosh Plumlee had the Justice Department put a gag order on him. He was reporting on C-130s flying arms into the radical Islamicist state, Shia folks. And then we're basically told, brace for terror attack, brace for terror attack, brace for terror attack. The Al-Qaeda threat, the IS threat, is real. But they were funded, protected, shepherded by the criminals that have hijacked our country and Europe and many other nations. Is Putin good? No, he represents a mafioso-type Russian strong-arm system where basically the KGB just became the oligarchs instead of the Rothschilds and Rockefellers and the Arm & Hammer Al Gore dynasty that owned the big factories all over Russia. Our government in 1917 put the Bolsheviks in on record. It's declassified. Gutted the whole country over 30 years. Stalin was our big ally. Lenin was our ally. They were in Time magazine as saviors, even in the mid-30s and late 30s and then early 40s. Endorsed publicly, given all our major factories, built up to take over the world. So we could then point the finger and say, oh my gosh, the commies are taking over. We've got to build up a big army to counter them. And then that army took over the rest of the world. Jack Sprat could eat no fat, his wife could eat no lean. In between the two of them, they licked the platter clean. These are children's nursery rhymes. I'm sure the public can understand what's happening here. This is so simple. And when I talk like that, I'm not talking to our general listeners that know more than I do in many cases. I'm always amazed by how informed people are. I'm talking about the general public. The system thinks you're so dumb. They think you're so stupid that they would fund Al-Qaeda, protect Al-Qaeda, give them Stinger missiles just a year ago. For the last 4 years, they've been doing it publicly, but for a year, it's been escalated. And then turn right around and say, we got to take your rights and have armored vehicles on the street corners and checkpoints everywhere because ISIS is inside the country with Stinger missiles and they're about to shoot down 20 airliners a day. Literally. If they got 100 Stinger missiles into this country and half of the missile launches were successful, you'd be talking about 50 aircraft shot down. They were given 15,000 MPADs, many of them more advanced and high-tech than the latest Stinger-type missiles. And you can see the Operation Terror the globalists are going to launch. They could shoot down hundreds and hundreds of aircraft with these in Europe, the United States, the Middle East. The FAA had to suspend during the last Gaza crisis that just ended, thank God, air flights into Israel because they know there's MPADs out there. So I want to explain, this is a real crisis, but the global crime syndicate, call them Chaos, call them Spectre, call them Dr. Evil, whatever you want to call these groups that are going to make money off weapon sales, off the crisis, off the insider trading, off of knowing what's coming before it happens. They literally are using this to destabilize the entire planet. And the Russians are not in an offensive posture. The communist Chinese, backed by the globalists, are buying basically up the oil fields worldwide, the rare earth minerals, the weapon systems, the media systems, censoring U.S. media, working with Microsoft to censor the internet worldwide and Google. China is a real hardcore New World Order threat. Russia, there is some intermediary connections with the globalists, the New World Order, but Russia, through Solzhenitsyn, discovered that they'd been hijacked by a eugenics program to destroy them. That's why communism was put in there, because Russia was the only rival to the globalists using the West parasitically as their engine of domination. So Solzhenitsyn wrote a bunch of books on this, not the one he won the Nobel Prize for, Gulag Archipelago, and he met repeatedly with Putin. Now, I don't know if Putin's double-crossing all that, but if you look at Russian radio and TV, it's New World Order, there's cancer in the vaccines, global government, they want to kill us, have children, don't abort your children. I mean, Russia knows what's going on. And just the fact that that's caught on in Russia, the New World Order could start a nuclear war with them. You understand that? They want to take their gas pipelines, they want to take their oil fields, they want to take their only port to get stuff out to Europe, and they're doing it right now. You are seeing what Napoleon and what Hitler did. And by the way, you notice Obama knows he won't get in any trouble. The globalists know. He's about to sign an executive order, that's in the Associated Press, to legalize the illegals and to stop deportations completely. He is about to sign us onto the UN and put carbon taxes on basically everything we do outside of law. And Rand Paul said, the senator said, you are not a king. Well, if he doesn't go to jail, he is a king. And now the establishment sets the precedent to whoever they put in as their puppet dictator will be a dictator in fact. An elected dictator. Because it won't matter. Once you elect them, they act dictatorially. So you can see it on every front. The globalists are taking down Africa. They're taking down Europe. They're taking down Latin America. They're taking down Asia. They are taking everything down. I'm skipping this network break. It's too important. That means our dear station shouldn't be covering this up because it's a network break. This costs us $3,000, $4,000 every time we skip it. But it's that important, I'm skipping it. Ladies and gentlemen, do you realize the magnitude of what we're facing? Stuff is so hardcore that it's disrespectful. You know, they'll have some O.J. Simpson verdict or they'll have some hyped up Miley Cyrus thing, and talk radio will suspend commercials for a whole day sometimes. I feel like I ought to suspend them, period. We ought to be on our knees. Everybody should be at church right now praying to God that this Cuban Missile Crisis Part 2 comes to an end. But this time, it's not the evil communist Russians trying to put missiles in Cuba. It is the West moving missiles to shoot down their missiles so there can be a first strike on Russia. And Russia sees the missile cruisers coming in. They see the systems to shoot down their response strike. They see the mercenaries, Al-Qaeda being turned loose all over their borders, from Chechnya, right through to Russia proper, blowing stuff up. And it's Western-backed. They don't even hide the fact that the CIA is arming Al-Qaeda groups to attack Russia. So you can see the massive double cross. And again, they're shutting off our power. They're shutting off our jobs. They're shutting down our coal power plants. They're passing more taxes here to shut us down. Those are sanctions. Obamacare is a sanction on our medical care system, on the average person, and 7 taxes on blue-collar workers and poor people, and a total of 20-plus taxes. On record. You're now feeling it. You're now seeing it. Same thing with Russia. So we have a lot of solidarity with the Russian people and the people of the EU who are being hurt by these sanctions. It's hurting our markets, but the globalists don't care because they're going to be the last men standing when they've consolidated the global economy. And Putin has gone. Call Ray McGovern, see if we can get him on. I want to get an analyst on about this right now. Because if they see a missile fired into their territory, Russia will launch on warning is the default, and it will be the end of the world as we know it. Or a large portion of the earth will die, like out of Revelations or something. You don't hear a lot about America in Revelations, do you? It's like we're going to be blown away. Why are all the elite leaving the country? I'm not saying this is going to happen, but let me tell you, it is in the cards. It's like Russian roulette, ladies and gentlemen, pun intended, with 6 bullets in the chamber, and the globalists are so arrogant and so full of bravado and chutzpah that they are rolling that cylinder and then putting it to their head and pulling the trigger, and our head as well. And I am sick of it. I am sick of them rolling that cylinder, putting 1 bullet in, shutting it down, playing Russian roulette with our lives. And let me tell you, I've studied the psychology of the Russians. I know the CIA has, the anthropologists have, the sociologists, the rest of them. You had one of the former deputy heads of the CIA come out yesterday. Kit Daniels wrote about it at Infowars.com and say it's time for us to kill Putin, or it's time for the KGB elite, the FSB, to kill him, or we are going to come after you. And they're taking all those rich KGB guys' bank accounts. They're messing with them. They're doing dirty tricks. They've got black ops in Russia messing with their families, trying to get the Russians to start a war. And it is because the New World Order has advanced weapons and things. It won't matter. Let's say they shoot down 98% of the nuclear missiles. Russia's got 10,000 Topol M's, railway-fired, medium, long-range, submarine launch, cruise missiles, way more than 10,000. What is 1% of 10,000? 100. 100 missiles make it in. The average missile, let's say, has 10 devices in it, 10 MIRVs. 5 of them are decoys. So what's 5? 5 of them are decoys, 5 are warheads. That's a low number. Some might have 20 packages, 10 are warheads. Or sometimes an entire package will be warheads. You got cruise missiles that come in and fire other cruise missiles off of them to basically get the targeting systems off so that the dummy cruise missiles with bigger signatures get shot down. I mean, is this really what we want? Probably. Because subconsciously, we want to join the 54 million aborted babies, don't we? Subconsciously, we know we're a wicked nation. Subconsciously, we know we're bad. Subconsciously. And so we're kind of rooting for nuclear war and the end of civilization. See, we have ancestral memories of struggle and of things being almost unsurvivable. And in that, we find our greatest moments. But see, humans have a will to go into crisis. It's almost an ancient form of entertainment to have war or crisis. It's a bunch of drama. But you can't do that with airborne Ebola. You can't do that with airborne mousepox. You can't do that with hydrogen bombs and X-ray lasers and super neutron-based antimatter reactions. Oh, that's a highly classified weapons program you just heard about right there. Air Force slipped up and gave a briefing on it. San Francisco Chronicle 10 years ago. Look it up. And I brought that up to nuclear engineers I know worked in the Pentagon. They would turn white when I would bring up the antimatter bombs. They've got weapons that will destroy the whole planet, just like that. In fact, they can't even test them, obviously. They don't know how much they would. You seen Star Trek, one of the last episodes? The new Star Trek movies, I think they're better than the old ones, where they go and drop that dark matter into the center of Spock's planet and implodes. How about the whole solar system doing that? How about black hole weapons? They invented the equations for atomic weapons. Max Planck did in 1900. There it is, Air Force pursuing antimatter weapons. Program was touted publicly, then came official gag order. San Francisco Chronicle, 2004. I said 10 years ago, boom, photographic memory. But it's only photographic back to a certain point. It's not been photographic the last few years. Near photographic, if I'm focused, have the right nutrients. But I'm 40. You're not supposed to be able to have a photographic memory after really 30. It starts degrading. Just saying, I'm not making this stuff up. People hear me throw out facts, numbers, statistics. But how does this guy know all this stuff? Yes, I do. Of course I know when they publish a thing about antimatter bombs. Who would not want to know that date? I'm not bragging here. I'm telling you that when Vladimir Putin says we have nuclear weapons, back off, that's what they did on 8/8/8 in August of 2008, threatening. I wake up, my wife's like, hey, Russia has attacked Georgia. It's on the radio. She's in there cooking breakfast. I get up, I stumble out, go to the computer, go to CNN, turn it on. Got coffee, standing there in my underwear. Kids are grabbing on my legs and stuff. And I'm, yeah, but they just invaded Georgia. Nobody knows why. They're driving towards the Capitol. They had the president of the country on there saying, please help us. And I get ready, and all the news says Russia's attacked. And it took me until I was about 30 minutes into the show at 11:30. It took me about, 4 or 5 hours. Yeah, there it is. Russia threatens nuclear attack on Poland over U.S. missile shield, London Telegraph. That was a few years ago. 2008. Print that for me. Thank you. If you're a radio listener and wonder what's going on, we're also simulcasting on television at Infowars.com/show and at PrisonPlanet.tv. And so as I say things, they Google it, then pull up the headline, and then so we can prove things for you. But back on 8/8/8, their chairman of their Joint Chiefs of Staff said, I am authorized to tell you that we're going to launch medium-range attacks on NATO bases in 1 hour if the NATO aircraft landing and disgorging U.S. and NATO forces do not pull out. The Russians landed in Serbia, in Pristina, the capital of Kosovo. When they were bringing in the Muslim forces and ethnically cleansing, they tried to take that Russian air base, and the Russians landed and said, okay, we're preparing for nuclear war. And the head of NATO refused the order. The British head, I forget, it's General Jackson, I think it was General Jackson, refused the order. And he said, I am not going to go down in history books as the guy that started World War III. Everyone knows the Russians don't ever threaten anything unless they're going to do it. They've been all nice. Oh, please don't take our military bases. Please don't take our gas pipelines. Please, we'll work things out with the West. In fact, we'll even let you have 90% of the country. Fine, the EU can eat Ukraine. Don't move missiles in. Stop. 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 CIA head goes there provocatively, commanding all these forces attacking the Russian-held areas. I mean, what do you expect? I mean, Putin could be Hitler. It's Hitler with nuclear weapons, folks. But he's not Hitler. It's the globalists that are expanding and pushing and starting all this. And if you just joined us, Vladimir Putin has come out and said, don't mess with nuclear Russia. It's best for you not to mess with us. Putin spoke easily with students, many of whom looked to be asking scripted questions. Oh, like our press conferences aren't scripted with Obama. Give me a break. Listen, if you're going to say those are scripted, say, as ours are scripted. See, because I tell you it's scripted here and it's scripted there. I'm sick of this. Oh, my gosh. Russians torture people sometimes. Oh, my gosh. But we never do that, right? And you don't spy on people either, right? I'm just sick of the hypocrisy, sick of the fraud, and sick of you people trying to start World War III. Hey, Goldman Sachs had made 40-to-1 bets with other people's money. People are nuts. Wall Street's nuts.